Over the past 2 decades, there is something that I can only describe as a brain rot has taken over the fitness industry, and that is the obsession with exercises that are purely hypertrophy based and only focus on building size, while disregarding even having a disdain for anything that gives you other benefits such as mobility, coordination, cardio, and is there to increase your quality of life. And that is very evident in the epidemic of literal children hopping on steroids to start building a massive body by the time they are 18. The fact that I have been training for over a decade and still don't look like a massive ball sack who can barely fit through doors is a thorn in many people's sides and a testament to my lack of knowledge and lack of ability. Having worked with thousands of people on their health and their quality of life, I can guarantee you that for every single person that regrets not having worked on their strength and building muscle size, there are at least a dozen who regret not having worked on their mobility and their quality of life directly. And trust me, one of these groups suffers way more than the other. I also have to say that I understand the problem. It is not very glorious to work on your mobility. If you have strength or hypertrophy goals, then it may infringe on your time that you have to allocate to those. But I'm actually here to tell you, do not have to choose between one or the other. You can have both if you truly want to. If you've been on this channel before, you know my obsession with what I call peak efficiency exercises, being exercises that help you add muscle mass while working on your flexibility, while helping you advance your coordination and get better cardio on top of that. So today we're gonna go through exercises that combine all of these benefits, being flexibility, strength and coordination, so you don't have to disregard any of the important aspects of training and getting fit. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. So let's start with the must-do exercises, and this is one that I do every single day, which is a classic dead hang or passive hang, an exercise that helps you decompress all of your joints, helps you release tension, especially throughout your lumbar spine and your shoulders, helps you build massive amounts of grip strength and forearm strength, and helps you strengthen the tendons involved in this hold, most importantly, the ones in your hands, while also helping you adjust any unnatural posture you might get from being seated all day and working from a seated position. All you need to do is hold onto a bar and start relaxing as much as you can into this position, lengthening your shoulders and moving your scapula into elevation, relaxing your entire back, which in turn will help you decompress all of your vertebrae, getting rid of any sort of lumbar tension and lumbar pain you might have that is connected to tightness, and can also help you take off a lot of pressure from your hip joints over the course of the day. Start with both hands and try working your way up to 60-second hold. And if you have a pull-up bar at home, you should probably do this multiple times over the course of the day. Stretch it out and get as much benefits from this exercise as possible. And if you are a calisthenics practitioner, this will also help you build the necessary forearm and arm strength to start working on pull-up gains. Now, one of the biggest detriments to our quality of life as we age is bad hip mobility, bad knee mobility, and bad ankle mobility. But luckily, we can take care of all of those with a single exercise, which is the deep squat. And the best thing to do to work on your squat mobility and building strength is weighted deep squats, meaning ass to grass. None of that hips at the height of your knees bullshit that we use for maximum hypertrophy, but actually just sitting down until your butt is as close to the floor as possible. And of course, doing so with the maximum amount of weight you can muster to get out of the hole again. And there is one amazing trick that can help you get all the way down, ass to grass, even if you do not have the necessary mobility yet. And it is as simple as elevating your heels, which will take care of the necessary flexibility to lower down into this position, will take care of the lack of core engagement and hip flexor engagement required to sit down all the way with flat feet. And over time, by reducing that elevation until your feet are flat on the floor, you will be able to sit down all the way into a deep squat, a movement pattern which you will load with heavy weights with your heels raised until you can do it flat on the floor. And now we're getting all of the benefits. Amazing glute stretch and the top side of our hamstrings, the amazing hip, knee and ankle mobility, which also will help us become much stronger, because increased range of motion can help us make longer movements, and longer movements will help us recruit more muscle fiber and become stronger in the given movement pattern. And if you want to make this even easier to start out, you can front load your squat, requiring even less balance and helping you lower down even deeper if you are a little bit more back heavy, while helping you target your quadriceps a little bit more if that is one of your goals. And of course, mixing both can lead to even more benefits. And while we are talking about lower body mobility, we can start adding our adductors, which will be some of the muscles that are the absolute tightest in most people, with an exercise that can help you become way stronger, pack on some real size, work on your flexibility, and help you open up those adductors as well. The Cossack squat, which is by far one of my favorite leg exercises for all of those benefits, working on the lower body joints, working on unilateral movement patterns, which is a way more functional and way more natural way to move for people, because we usually do not work in symmetrical movement patterns throughout the course of our day. And while it is very anterior chain dominant, you can start adding posterior chain strength as well, because there are an insane amount of Cossack squat variations. Which you can check out in this video if you want to go through all of them. Now, before we move on to some of the more upper body dominant exercises, we have to address the elephant in the room, and I'm not talking about your mom. It's probably the single biggest issue I see in people's flexibility, and that is their hip flexors and their quad flexibility, which also impedes on your hip mobility, with the best exercise to help you lengthen that while building massive amounts of strength being the Bulgarian split squat. Using weight only on one side will force you to work more on stabilization throughout your core and your leg musculature, which in turn is going to help you become way stronger through nervous system engagement. And you're lengthening the exact problem zones, your quads and your hip flexors, at the bottom of the exercise, while strengthening your quads on one side and your glutes on the other side, especially at the top of the movement when you start tilting our pelvis, and making this exercise even more effective when it comes to hypertrophy as well as strength and coordination, using two different weights on either side, because now we are increasing the resistance and adding even more stabilization requirements throughout our entire body. So you can build not only big, but impressively strong and mobile legs. We're going for a more full body exercise, so we can combine our upper body with lower body, especially when it comes to coordinating both in one single compound movement. We'll have an insanely hard time finding anything that is just as effective at strengthening your posterior chain while stretching your posterior chain as the classic Jefferson curl, an exercise that goes through every single muscle fiber, tendon and ligament that is connected to posterior chain flexibility, and can even help you decompress your shoulders at the very bottom of the movement for a tiny bit of a bonus, while strengthening every single muscle that is in the backside of our body. And of course, recommend starting this one on the floor with a very tiny weight and going through as much spinal flexion, meaning the rounding of your spine, as you can until you are at the very bottom of your range of motion, and then reversing that movement with the same roundness so we can start strengthening our posterior chain in those compromised positions where we are not fully extended when lifting something up. And over time, in small increments, through progressive overload, increase the resistance and elevate your body so you can lower down more and more and more until you are practically in this pike position. This exercise has massive amounts of benefits when it comes to strength and flexibility, and should become one of the staples of your mobility workouts. Now, what we see very frequently from people who work a lot on their chest strength as well as their anterior delts is a shortening of their muscles here, which in turn forces them into this slumped position, which over time leads to a myriad of problems and can increase your risk of injury. And the remedy for that is actually more chest exercises. If we focus on the calisthenics exercises, such as the push-ups, instead of ending your movement here, which barely gives you any sort of stretch in your chest musculature, you can start working with more elevation, forcing you to lower down even more to touch the floor, which in turn is going to open up your chest and your anterior delts, helping you stretch them out, and even more effective for opening up every single muscle fiber in your anterior chain in the top of your body, while helping you build insane amounts of strength and coordination, are of course unilateral or asymmetrical archer push-ups, which, as we said, go through a lot of strength requirements in your chest and in your anterior delts as well as your biceps, while stretching every single muscle fiber there and helping you lengthen them to the maximum, releasing any sort of tension there and helping you stand way more upright and way more healthily if this unnatural posture is actually caused by a tight chest. Now, one of the more intermediate to advanced exercises that will help you become a shoulder mobility master, the tucked skin the cat, an exercise that is going to force us into maximum stretch for our chest and our anterior delts, while helping us build a lot of strength in those tendons and ligaments that surround our shoulder and in our rotator cuff, while building core strength, hip flexor strength, and a lot of control control to both get into this position as well as reverse it. Now, since this is somewhat of a more advanced exercise, you can check out this video where we go through it step by step if you truly want to learn this exercise. For now, you can start simulating it with a minimum amount of strength benefits by simply going through a partial range of motion of this exercise in a standing position. Try and keep your back fully straight until you are at the bottom of the movement or your range of motion. Hold for a second or two and you can start activating your quads and your core to reverse this movement before you lower into it once again. And finally, since we have barely worked on our lats except for the dead hang, we're now going to combine this with our chest and our deltoids as well for even more effective exercises. Both strengthening and stretching those muscles with a classic pullover exercise. Keep your arms extended for the majority of the exercise. You can even use the weight to help you pull you deeper into this stretch, just like you would with any sort of loaded stretch. Hold this very bottom position for a second or two before you reverse, starting to build chest strength and shoulder strength, and then reverse the movement again, lowering down as far as possible. This one will basically stretch out your entire anterior chain, even the top of your abdominals, and if you're really tight, all of your abdominals, while helping you add the tiniest bit of thoracic mobility as well. Not to mention that it feels absolutely amazing to hold this stretch for a while, and you can even go up to 30 seconds through a more static stretching approach before you go for the next repetition. This one will help you fuse all the flexibility and strength bonuses of our chest, back, and shoulders together into one single exercise. And there you have it, a complete workout routine that will help you work on your strength, work on your flexibility, work on your coordination, help you combine your hypertrophy goals with mobility goals so you can have a good quality of life as you become older and as you become stronger. Now, if you like the video, and if you're interested in more of this content, then come on, subscribe. We do stuff like that almost every single day, which means that I will see you tomorrow. And until then, Captain Cairo, peace out.